John McComb from CKNW about something that John decided to go public with, and you say, is it brave for you to go public, do you think, or did you feel that it was part of a recovery, or how do you describe it?
I don't really think it was a matter of bravery. I think I just reached the point where I realized that my experience was so much like many other people who suffer from depression or anxiety that it would do some good to let other people know that, yeah, a lot of people have mental health problems, 1 in 5. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest problem I had early on was to admit to myself that I had a problem and then seek help for it. And that's the biggest obstacle, you know, the biggest part of that stigma. Mm-hmm. is a lot of times is what you put on yourself.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to finally come to the decision. Well, I didn't actually come to the decision. I got to the point where I couldn't work anymore, and so.
Right.
What would happen when you? This is 10 years ago. What would happen when you would go into work?
My doctor called it a classic case of burnout, and I wasn't happy. I was angry all the time. Mm-hmm. I was having panic attacks on the air, which is a very, very difficult thing for me to admit because, you know, I've been at this a long, long time.
Sure.
And when you're in your, whatever it was, 33rd year of your career, mm-hmm. and suddenly you can't get through a newscast without panicking.
Yeah.
That's, you know, for me, that was
scary.
That was pretty serious.
Yeah.
So that started to happen, and finally the best words that I could ever have spoken, I went into my boss at NW, Ian Koenigsvest, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And he said, go home, go see your doctor, it takes as much time as you need.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I was convinced at that point that my career was over, because who would want to hire or keep on a guy with a mental illness? And then I thought, you know, the radio business is filled with people who are kind of straight.
That's right. Very true.
I actually fit right in.
That's how you make it in the biz, really.
Exactly.
John, at that particular point where you're, you know, I don't want to say rock bottom. I'm mm-hmm. getting quite. I mean, you were very low. You were like, I can't get through a newscast. I can't do mm-hmm. this. So you step away from something that you've known for all those years and that you love, and thinking, now maybe this is the end of it. Did that push you further away from what we call healthy?
I think it did for a while, but again, this was all of my own making.
Yeah.
I was setting myself up for the stigma and the shame, because there's a lot of shame associated with it.
Right.
It was, and for a while I thought it was over, but then as I started to feel better, I thought, God, I've got like 30 years experience at this. Why would I want to walk away from that?
Yeah.
And do what?
Yeah.
You know, at its heart, I love what I do, right? So as I started to feel better, I said, no, let's concentrate on what we know.
Had it occurred to you before 2004 that there was something wrong, that there was a mental illness?
I have, excuse me, I have mental illness in my family.
Yeah.
Lots of alcoholism. And so I had a pretty good idea that I was probably suffering. Mm-hmm. But my attitude was to say, oh no, I can handle this. Mm-hmm. I'll take care of this. I don't need to see it. You know,
it's common.
If I had a heart problem, you know, I'd go see a doctor, right? I wouldn't sit around and go, no, maybe I'll handle this myself.
Yeah. So many people think like that.
Exactly.
I don't know if you remember, but I actually ran into you in the middle of this when you were on our hiatus from work, and we talked a little bit, and at that particular time I had no idea obviously what you were going through. You said you just needed a little bit of a break, and you think by going public now and sort of stepping forward and saying, look, this is where I was and this is where I am now. How are you now? What is life like differently now from 10 years ago to today?
The last 10 years have been the best years of my life.
Wow.
And I think that's the key to this is you know, when we talk about mental illness, we know we hear about somebody on the downtown east side, or we hear about somebody who's had a psychotic break and has hurt somebody. The fact is that 80% of people who have mental illness are treated for it and go back to work and get on with it. And that's what's happened to me. So an example of what happens when you let stigma get in the way, but I'm also an example of what happens when you can step away from that, get some help, and get on with your life. So the last 10 years have been great.
Awesome.
So getting treatment can be challenging sometimes as well. If you are prepared to seek it, that's one thing, but then sometimes getting it is the tough part. You're trying to change that as well with your show tomorrow. I mean, it's an ongoing thing for you, but you've got a big show tomorrow.
We're going to be at Vancouver General Hospital. I've been doing a lot of work with the VGH and UBC Hospital Foundation.
Right.
They're trying to raise $84 million for a brand new mental health center at Vancouver General.
Right.
The province has put in $57 million. The Siegel family, Joe and Rosalie Siegel and their family, have put in 12. And so I think we're down to about the last couple, $3 million to get it topped off and get the work underway. So it's going to be a beautiful, healing center.